The crystal chandelier above me refracted light into 1,000 tiny rainbows, each one dancing across the auction paddles raised by Manhattan's elite. I adjusted the emerald bracelet on my wrist, a nervous habit I'd developed since taking over the Windsor hotel empire, and tried to focus on the Monet being displayed. The auctioneer's voice blended with the soft murmur of conversation, creating a symphony of wealth that I'd grown up hearing, but never quite learned to love. Lot 47. Ladies and gentlemen, a magnificent example of Monet's Water Lilies series, from his Giverny period. My fingers traced the rim of my champagne flute, untouched for the past hour. The bubbles had long since fizzled into expensive flatness. Around me, the cream of New York society clustered in their usual formations. Old money gravitating toward old money. New wealth desperately trying to penetrate those closed circles. And me, somewhere in between, carrying a legacy I'd never asked for but couldn't escape. The Guggenheim's private auction room smelled of aged wood and fresh orchids, mixed with traces of Tom Ford and Chanel that followed the crowd like invisible calling cards. I recognized most faces. Board members from various charities, rival hoteliers, society photographers who pretended their presence was about art rather than gossip. My publicist, Andrea, had insisted I attend. Visibility matters, Nora. The Windsor name needs to be seen supporting the arts. What Andrea didn't understand was that visibility felt like vulnerability lately. Ever since my father's sudden death 8 months ago, leaving me sole heir to a hotel empire spanning 3 continents, I'd felt eyes on me constantly. Calculating eyes, measuring eyes, eyes that saw dollar signs rather than a person. 27 million, someone called out, and I shifted in my Louboutin, the red soles hidden beneath the hem of my black Versace gown. The dress had been another of Andrea's selections. Classic, but commanding, she'd said. What it really was restrictive. The fitted bodice made it hard to take the deep breaths I needed when anxiety crept up my spine like it was doing now. I glanced at my phone. 10:47 p.m. Another 13 lots to go. The charity would benefit. The Windsor Foundation would make its usual donation regardless. But I longed for the quiet of my penthouse, where I could shed this persona of the composed heiress and just be Nora, who still felt like a fraud in boardrooms and preferred room service to 5-star restaurants. "Excuse me, Miss Windsor?" A waiter appeared at my elbow, silver tray balanced perfectly. "Compliments of Mr. Hayworth." I followed his gaze to Richard Hayworth, a property developer who'd been aggressively pursuing a partnership with Windsor Hotels. His smile was practiced, predatory. I shook my head politely. "Please thank Mr. Hayworth, but I'm fine." The waiter nodded and retreated. I'd become expert at these soft rejections, the delicate dance of maintaining business relationships while establishing boundaries. My father had made it look effortless. 8 months later, I still felt like I was performing a role I'd never auditioned for. The Monet sold for $32 million. As the handlers carefully removed it from the display easel, I noticed movement in my peripheral vision. 3 men in dark suits had entered through the service door, unusual for security, who typically remained stationed at designated posts. They moved with purpose, not scanning the room, but focused on something specific. On me. My heartbeat quickened. I cataloged exits automatically. Main entrance, service door they'd used, emergency exit behind the temporary stage. The crowd around me continued their conversations, oblivious. The men split up, 1 remaining by the service door, 2 moving along opposite walls. Classic positioning. I'd seen enough security details to recognize the pattern. But these men weren't protecting anyone. They were hunting. I stood slowly, smoothing my dress with hands that wanted to tremble. The key to not attracting attention was moving with purpose, as if you had somewhere specific to be. The ladies' room, a perfectly reasonable destination. I placed my clutch under my arm and began threading through the crowd. "Nora, darling." Vivian Ashford, a family friend, caught my arm. I've been meaning to ask about the Windsor Milan. I'm so sorry, Vivian, I interrupted gently, noting one of the men had adjusted his trajectory to match mine. I'll find you in a moment? Her expression flickered with surprise at my rudeness. But I was already moving. The ladies' room was 20 feet away. 15. 10. A hand closed around my upper arm, firm enough to stop me without causing a scene. Miss Windsor. The voice was quiet, accented. Eastern European, maybe Russian. You will come with us quietly, please. I turned, meeting eyes that were flat and professional. Up close, I could see the bulge beneath his jacket. Armed. In the middle of a charity auction attended by judges, politicians, and business titans. I believe you're mistaken, I said, proud when my voice remained steady. His grip tightened fractionally. No mistake. You will come now, or we will make a scene that ends badly for others here. Your choice. The second man had positioned himself on my other side. Trapped. My mind raced through options, each one ending with potential collateral damage to innocent bystanders. These men were prepared to act in a room full of witnesses that spoke to either desperation or supreme confidence. My security has been handled, he cut me off. You walk with us now. Smile. We are old friends escorting you to a meeting. The third man by the service door was watching, hand inside his jacket. How many more were there? Who had sent them? The questions would have to wait. Right now, I needed to protect the people around me who had no idea danger stood in their midst wearing expensive suits and counterfeit smiles. I forced my lips into something resembling calm. Where? Outside. Car is waiting. He began guiding me toward the service door, his partner flanking my other side. To observers, we might have looked like business associates. The grip on my arm told a different story. My heels clicked against the marble floor, each step taking me further from the relative safety of the crowd. The service hallway was dimmer, lined with catering supplies and coat racks. The third man fell into step behind us, boxing me in completely. What do you want? I asked as we approached a freight elevator. You will transfer ownership of Windsor hotels to designated accounts, the leader said, pressing the elevator button. Documents are prepared. You will sign, authorize transfers, and everyone walks away intact. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime that felt like a countdown. Once I was in that metal box, my options would shrink to nothing. The leader gestured for me to enter. I hesitated on the threshold, calculating odds that weren't in my favor. That's when I heard the voice, deep, controlled, with the slightest hint of Italian accent. I believe you gentlemen have mistaken my wife for someone else. The men turned in unison, hands moving toward weapons. Standing 10 feet away was a man I'd never seen before, but whose presence seemed to fill the narrow hallway. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a tuxedo that emphasized rather than concealed the dangerous grace with which he moved. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in a Renaissance painting, all sharp angles and controlled power. But it was his eyes that made my breath catch. Dark as espresso, they held an intensity that suggested violence barely leashed. He wasn't looking at me, but at the men surrounding me, and something in his gaze made them hesitate. You are mistaken, the leader said, though uncertainty had crept into his voice. This is business with Miss Windsor. The stranger smiled then, and it was nothing close to friendly. There is no Miss Windsor here, only Mrs. Torino. His gaze finally met mine, and the message was clear. Play along or suffer consequences. Isn't that right, Kara? I had a split second to decide. 3 armed men who wanted to force me to sign away my inheritance, or one stranger whose interruption might be my only chance. The math was simple. Darling, I managed, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. I was just explaining to these gentlemen that they have the wrong person. He closed the distance between us with fluid steps that made the 3 men tense, but instead of violence, He reached for me, one hand sliding around my waist to pull me against him, while the other cupped my face with surprising gentleness. "Always getting into trouble when I leave you alone," he murmured, loud enough for them to hear. Then, before I could process his intention, his mouth was on mine. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was possession and performance combined, designed to sell a fiction that might save my life. His hand at my waist pulled me closer, while his lips moved against mine with practiced skill that made thinking impossible. I tasted whiskey and mint, felt the controlled strength in the arm around me, and for a moment forgot this was pretense. When he pulled back, my lipstick was smudged on his mouth, intimate evidence that made our charade more believable. His thumb brushed my cheek as he studied me with those dark eyes, playing the part of an attentive husband perfectly. "Torino," the leader said, and the name carried weight that made his partners shift nervously. "We didn't know she was yours." The man holding me, Torino, kept his eyes on mine as he spoke. "Now you do." His voice carried quiet menace. "And you're interrupting our evening." I felt rather than saw the silent communication passing between the three men. Whatever the Torino name meant in their world, it was enough to recalculate their plans. The leader's hand moved away from his weapon. "Our apologies," he said stiffly. "We were given incorrect information." "Information," Torino repeated, finally looking at them. "About my wife." The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop. I played my part, leaning into his side as if seeking protection. His arm tightened around me. Reassurance or warning, I couldn't tell. "A misunderstanding," the leader insisted, but sweat had appeared on his forehead. "We'll leave now." "Yes," Torino agreed. "You will. And you'll share with whoever sent you that Nora Torino is under my protection. Anyone who disturbs her disturbs me." He paused, letting the threat settle. I trust I don't need to elaborate on how I handled disturbances. They backed away, the freight elevator forgotten, 3 professional kidnappers reduced to nervous retreat by one man's presence and a name that carried more threat than their weapons. I watched them disappear through the service exit, my body still pressed against Torino's solid warmth. Only when the door clicked shut did I remember to breathe. The adrenaline that had kept me focused suddenly had nowhere to go, leaving my legs unsteady. If Torino hadn't been holding me, I might have stumbled. "Steady," he murmured, guiding me to lean against the wall. "They're gone." "Who are you?" My voice came out shakier than I'd like. Up close, I could see details the dramatic lighting had hidden. A thin scar through his left eyebrow. The way his jaw tensed as he scanned the hallway. The expensive watch that looked functional rather than flashy. Everything about him suggested controlled power. From the perfect fit of his tuxedo, to the way he positioned himself between me and potential danger. "Dominic Torino," he said, producing a pristine handkerchief from his pocket. "And you're bleeding." I looked down, surprised to see crimson drops on my dress. The leader's grip had been harder than I'd realized, his nails breaking skin through the fabric. Dominic gently took my arm, dabbing at the small wounds with unexpected tenderness. "Why did you help me?" I asked, studying his face for clues. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You needed help." He folded the bloodied handkerchief away. "And I have a particular distaste for men who threaten women." "But you knew they were afraid of you, of your name." His eyes met mine again, and I saw calculation there, measuring how much truth to share. "The Torino name carries certain associations in particular circles, useful for situations like this." "Criminal circles," I said, not making it a question. "Among others." He didn't deny it, didn't justify or explain. The honesty was somehow more unsettling than deception would have been. "Can you walk?" We should move before they decide to return with reinforcements. I tested my legs, found them steadier. I need to get back to the auction. People will notice. People already noticed. He gestured toward the service door. 3 men following you wasn't as subtle as they believed. Security is asking questions. Guests are whispering. Better to leave now, control the narrative later. He was right. Returning to the auction would mean questions I couldn't answer, attention that might bring more danger. But leaving with him presented its own risks. I don't know you, I pointed out. No, he agreed. But you know what those men wanted. They'll try again, probably before the night ends. Your security is compromised. They said so themselves. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. My car is outside. I can take you somewhere safe while we figure out who sent them and why. We? You have something they want badly enough to attempt kidnapping from a room full of New York's most powerful people. That kind of desperation doesn't disappear because of one failed attempt. He pocketed his phone as a text chimed back. I have resources, connections. You have a target on your back. Seems like a practical partnership. Every logical part of my brain screamed against trusting a man who'd introduced himself with violence, whose kiss still lingered on my lips. But logic hadn't saved me tonight. He had. My penthouse has security, which they've studied and planned for, he interrupted. They knew your schedule, your habits, where you'd be tonight. Going home is exactly what they expect. Another text chimed on his phone. He glanced at it, frowned. They had a 4th man in the parking garage. My people are handling it. But we need to go now. My people. Such a casual reference to what I assumed was a criminal organization. Yet those people were currently protecting me more effectively than my legitimate security had. Where would we go? I heard myself asking. My place first. It's secure and we need information. He must have seen my expression because he added, You'll be safe. I have a 5-year-old daughter asleep upstairs. Despite what you're thinking about me, I don't bring danger home to her. A daughter. The detail humanized him in a way that his gentle handling of my wounds hadn't. Criminals didn't usually mention their children to potential victims. Either he was telling the truth about helping me, or he was a masterful manipulator. All right, I decided, because staying meant certain danger, and going with him meant only probable danger. In my world of calculated risks, those were better odds. He guided me through a maze of service corridors, his hand light on my lower back. We emerged into a loading dock where a black Bentley waited, engine running. The driver, a mountain of a man with careful eyes, opened the door without being asked. Marco, Dominic said as we slid into leather seats that smelled of sandalwood. Any problems? Handled, boss. Joey's keeping eyes on their vehicle. Boss. Not sir or Mr. Torino, but boss. Another confirmation of what I'd already suspected. I was climbing into a car with a man who commanded the kind of loyalty that came from either deep respect or deeper fear. The Bentley pulled smoothly into traffic, leaving the Guggenheim's lights behind. I watched the city blur past tinted windows, my reflection a ghost overlaid on familiar streets. Dominic sat beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth but not touching. The space between us felt charged with possibilities I didn't want to examine. Tell me about the men, he said finally. You recognize them? No, but they knew about my security, my schedule. They wanted me to transfer ownership of Windsor Hotels. His expression sharpened. The entire company? That's what they said. They had documents prepared. I rubbed my arms, suddenly cold despite the car's warmth. Someone planned this carefully. Someone with inside knowledge, he agreed. Who benefits if you lose control of the company? The question I'd been avoiding since those men cornered me, because the answer led to places I didn't want to go, to suspicions about people I should be able to trust. My Uncle Charles would be next in line, I admitted quietly. But he's family. He helped raise me after my mother died. Dominic made a non-committal sound. Family can be the most dangerous enemy. They know your weaknesses, your patterns. They have access others don't. The Bentley turned into an underground garage I didn't recognize. Security cameras tracked our progress, and I counted at least 3 men in strategic positions before we reached Dominic's private section. Whatever else he was, paranoid wasn't an unfair assessment. "Relax," he said, noting my tension. "These precautions have kept my daughter and me safe for years. They'll keep you safe tonight." The private elevator rose silently through the building's core, requiring both a key code and biometric scan to operate. Dominic stood with the easy stillness of a man comfortable in his own space, while I fought the urge to fidget with my clutch. Each floor we passed felt like another step away from my normal world, deeper into his. "Penthouse," he said as the doors opened. "Welcome to my home." I stepped into a space that defied expectations. Where I'd imagined ostentatious displays of wealth, the typical gangster cliché, I found understated elegance, warm hardwood floors, exposed brick walls, modern furniture that prioritized comfort over statement. But it was the details that caught me. Children's drawings held by magnets on stainless steel appliances, a pink backpack forgotten by the entry table, tiny shoes lined up beside expensive men's loafers. "Lily's asleep," he said quietly, noting my focus on the domestic evidence. "Mrs. Chen, her nanny, has the night off, but Roberto's keeping an eye on things." As if summoned, a distinguished older man appeared from what I assumed was the kitchen. His assessing gaze took in my disheveled appearance and the blood spots on my dress without visible reaction. "Sir," he said to Dominic. Miss Lily woke briefly but settled back. "I've prepared the guest suite as requested." "Thank you, Roberto. This is Ms. Windsor. She'll be staying tonight while we handle a security matter." "Of course." Roberto inclined his head to me. "Shall I prepare something to eat? Perhaps some tea?" Food was the last thing on my mind, but Dominic answered for me. "Tea would be good. Something calming." He turned to me. "You're in shock, whether you feel it or not. Your body needs warmth and sugar." I wanted to argue that I didn't need him making decisions for me, but the tremor in my hand suggested he might be right. Roberto disappeared back toward the kitchen, leaving us alone in the living space. "Sit," Dominic said, guiding me to a leather sofa that probably cost more than most people's cars. "I need to make some calls, find out what my people have learned." He shrugged out of his tuxedo jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt that did nothing to civilize the dangerous lines of his body. The shoulder holster he wore should have frightened me. Instead, it felt like confirmation. At least he wasn't hiding what he was. I watched him pace near the windows, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian too quiet for me to decipher. The city sparkled beyond the glass, a glittering reminder of the normal world that felt very far away. My own phone buzzed with missed calls. Andrea, my head of security, various board members who'd attended the auction. Soon I'd have to craft explanations, spin stories. But not yet. Roberto returned with a tea service that belonged in a 5-star hotel. Delicate china, fresh lavender honey, butter cookies that looked homemade. He set it on the coffee table with practiced efficiency, and withdrew. "Information is coming," Dominic said, ending his call. He sat across from me, maintaining careful distance. 3 men were hired through intermediaries, paid in cryptocurrency, professional but not elite, which is why they backed down from the Torino name. And the 4th man? Being questioned. Something in how he said it made me not ask for details. "He'll provide more specific information about who hired them." I poured tea with hands that only trembled slightly, the familiar ritual grounding. "Why are you helping me? Really?" He leaned back, considering. "Would you believe simple human decency? From a man whose name terrifies professional criminals." A smile ghosted across his features. "Fair point." He was quiet for a moment, then, "I've built my life on certain principles, They might not be principles you'd approve of, but they're mine. Men threatening women violates those principles. Men threatening women at events I attend with my daughter nearby. That requires response. Your daughter was there? In theory, with her art teacher. They left before the excitement started, thankfully. His expression softened. She's 5. Obsessed with Monet lately because her teacher showed them the water lilies. I promised to show her the painting before someone bought it. The image was incongruous. This dangerous man indulging a child's interest in impressionist art. Yet the tenderness in his voice when he spoke of her was unmistakable. Tell me about her, I found myself saying. His whole demeanor shifted, pride evident. Lily's exceptional. Too smart for her own good, questions everything. Her mother died when she was 2, car accident, so it's been just us and whatever help I trust enough to bring into our lives. He paused. She'd like you. You have kind eyes. Kind eyes? That's how she categorizes people. Kind eyes or mean eyes. Very binary worldview at 5. I sipped my tea, processing this glimpse behind his controlled facade. A single father raising a daughter while running what I assumed was a criminal empire. The contradictions should have been jarring. Instead, they made him more real, more dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with violence. My phone rang, shattering the strange intimacy of the moment. Andrea's name flashed on screen. I should take this, I said. He nodded. Keep it vague. Your location. What happened? Trust no one until we know more. The warning reminded me of my reality. I answered, crafting careful half-truths. Yes, I'd left suddenly. No, I wasn't hurt. Security issue being handled. I'd be in touch tomorrow. Andrea's questions grew more pointed, but I pleaded exhaustion and ended the call. She'll have questions, I said unnecessarily. Everyone will. The question is who's asking out of concern and who's fishing for information. He rose, moved to a wall I'd thought was decorative paneling. It opened at his touch, revealing a sophisticated security setup. Multiple screens showed feeds from around the building, the garage, even the street outside. No unusual activity yet, but they'll regroup. I joined him, studying the feeds. You live like this? Constantly watching? I live cautiously. There's a difference. He glanced at me. You're going to have to learn the distinction if you want to survive what's coming. You think this is just the beginning. I know it is. Someone wants your company badly enough to attempt a public kidnapping. That's not a decision made lightly or cheaply. When this fails, they'll escalate. The words chilled me more than the attack had. Because he was right. Whoever orchestrated this had moved from corporate maneuvering to violence. There'd be no going back to boardroom battles and hostile takeovers. I have good lawyers. Lawyers assume the other side follows rules, he interrupted. These people have already shown they don't. You need a different kind of help. Your kind? Someone who understands how they think, how they operate. Someone they're afraid of. His dark eyes held mine. I can be that for you. But it comes with complications. What kind of complications? He was quiet for a long moment, seeming to weigh his words. Association with me will raise questions. Your reputation will take hits. Business partners might get nervous. And you'll have to trust me with information about your company, your life, that you probably don't share with anyone. And in return, protection. Real investigation into who's behind this. Resolution. He paused. I don't do things halfway, Nora. If I commit to helping you, I'll see it through. The way he said my name sent an unexpected shiver through me. I looked away, focusing on the security monitors to avoid examining that reaction. I don't have much choice, do I? There's always a choice. You could go to the police, hire more security, hope for the best. But we both know how that ends. We did. My father had tried legitimate channels when a rival attempted hostile takeover tactics. The legal battles had dragged on while the real damage happened in shadows. By the time courts ruled, the harm was irreversible. All right, I heard myself say. But I have conditions. I'd expect nothing less. I want to know what's happening. No keeping me in the dark for my own protection. And I need to maintain my business, my normal life as much as possible. Windsor Hotels has thousands of employees depending on stable leadership. He nodded. Fair. My conditions. You follow security protocols without argument. When I say a situation is dangerous, you believe me. And you're honest about potential threats, even if they come from people you trust. You really think it's Uncle Charles? I think you need to stop ruling out possibilities based on emotion. His phone chimed. He checked it, expression hardening. The fourth man talked. The payment trail leads to a shell company with interesting connections. To Charles? To your board of directors, specifically to accounts associated with board member vote proxies. He met my eyes. Someone's not just trying to steal your company. They're trying to make it look legal when they do. The revelation hit like cold water. Board proxies meant someone was collecting voting rights, planning a coup that would stand up in court. The kidnapping would have just been the start. Sign over control under duress, then use board mechanics to make it stick. I need to see the records, I said, mind already racing through who had access, who'd been pushing for proxy assignments. Tomorrow. Tonight you rest. You're safe here, and you'll think clearer after sleep. He gestured toward a hallway. Guest suite is the second door. Roberto put some clothes in there. They'll be too big, but better than sleeping in that dress. I looked down at my ruined Versace, the blood spots now brown against black fabric. Evidence of how quickly my controlled world had shattered. Thank you, I said, meaning more than just the clothes. He studied me for a moment, and I wondered what he saw. A privileged heiress in over her head? A potential complication to his ordered life? Or something else entirely? We'll keep you safe, he said finally, both from whoever's hunting you and from the choices that might require. I wanted to ask what choices he meant, but exhaustion was winning over anxiety. The adrenaline that had sustained me was fading, leaving me aware of every ache, every moment of fear I'd pushed aside. Second door? I confirmed. Second door. Lock it if it makes you feel better, though anyone who gets past my security won't be stopped by a bedroom lock. Strangely, the pragmatic honesty was more reassuring than false promises would have been. The guest suite continued the penthouse's theme of understated luxury. King bed with sheets that felt like silk water, a bathroom larger than most Manhattan apartments, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering vertigo-inducing views of the city. Someone, Roberto, I assumed, had laid out men's clothing that would dwarf my frame. Soft gray sweatpants, a Columbia University hoodie worn to comfortable softness, pristine white socks. I showered first, washing away the evening's terror with water hot enough to fog the entire bathroom. My hands shook as I traced the crescent marks where my attacker's fingers had gripped. 5 perfect bruises darkening against pale skin. The physical evidence made it real in a way adrenaline had prevented earlier. Someone wanted me dead, or at least desperate enough to sign away everything my father had built. Wrapped in a towel that probably cost more than most wedding dresses, I examined my reflection. Same face that graced Windsor Hotel's annual reports. Same green eyes that photographers called arresting. Same carefully maintained appearance that helped sell our luxury brand. But underneath the familiar features, I saw something new. Vulnerability I'd never had to acknowledge before. The clothes smelled like expensive detergent and something distinctly masculine. The hoodie fell to my knees. The sweatpants required rolling multiple times to avoid tripping. I looked like a child playing dress-up, but the soft fabric felt like armor against the night's chill. My phone showed 17 missed calls, 43 texts. The story was breaking. Windsor heiress disappears from charity auction, already trending on social media. Andrea had sent increasingly frantic messages. My Uncle Charles had called twice, his voicemails expressing concern that might have been genuine or calculated. I turned the phone off. Tomorrow would bring necessary lies and careful navigation. Tonight, I needed to think without outside pressure. A soft knock interrupted my spiral toward panic. I opened the door to find Dominic, now in dark jeans and a black Henley that emphasized rather than concealed his dangerous build. He held a steaming mug. "Roberto insisted," he said, offering what smelled like hot chocolate. His cure for everything from skinned knees to existential dread. I accepted the mug, warmth seeping into my cold hands. "Does it work?" "Ask Lily. She's had her share of both." He leaned against the doorframe, not entering uninvited. "Can't sleep." Every time I close my eyes, I feel them grabbing me. The admission slipped out before I could censor it. His expression darkened. "They won't touch you again." The certainty in his voice should have been presumptuous. Instead, it steadied something inside me. I sipped the chocolate, rich, complex, with a hint of cinnamon, and wondered how I'd gone from fearing this man to finding comfort in his presence. "Tell me about the shell company," I said. "Tomorrow, please." I met his eyes. "I need to understand what I'm fighting." He studied me, then nodded toward the suite sitting area. "Get comfortable. It's complicated." I curled into an oversized armchair while he took the couch, maintaining professional distance that felt both respectful and charged. The city glittered beyond the windows, oblivious to the drama playing out in this tower. "The shell company is 3 layers deep," he began. "Registered in Delaware, owned by a Cayman entity, which traces to a Swiss trust. Classic structure for hiding ownership. But my people are good at following money." And they found patterns. The same structure has been acquiring Windsor Hotel stock through multiple brokers over the past 6 months. Never enough to trigger disclosure requirements. Always just under reporting thresholds. Someone's been building a position while staying invisible. My stomach clenched. "How much do they have?" "Based on tonight's preliminary data, between 15 and 20%. I nearly dropped the mug. 20% was significant. Enough to cause serious problems with the right board allies, combined with proxy votes. "If they get my shares, they'd have effective control," he finished. "Your kidnapping wasn't random violence. It was a carefully planned corporate takeover using criminal means." The sophistication of it chilled me. This wasn't some thuggish shakedown, but a complex scheme requiring financial expertise, legal knowledge, and criminal connections. "Who has that kind of resources?" I asked, though I feared the answer. "Someone with inside knowledge of Windsor Hotel's structure. Someone who knew you'd inherited sole control, understood the proxy system, had access to board voting patterns." He paused. "You said your uncle helped raise you. Tell me about him." I didn't want to. Charles had been my rock after my mother's death when I was 12. The uncle who attended school plays when my father was traveling, who taught me to drive in the Windsor Hotel's parking lot after hours. But Dominic's waiting silence demanded honesty. "Charles is my father's younger brother. He's been with the company 30 years, runs our European operations. Board members trust him. He's steady, conservative, everything my father wasn't." I drew my knees up, making myself smaller in the vast chair. He expected to inherit. Everyone did. My father naming me sole heir shocked everyone, including me. How did he react? I remembered that awful day, reading the will in the lawyer's office. Charles's face had cycled through surprise, hurt, and something else before settling on supportive understanding. He congratulated me, said Dad knew best, that he'd support whatever I needed. The words tasted bitter now. He's been helpful, maybe too helpful in hindsight. Keeping close to monitor your decisions? Offering guidance, suggesting board members who might support my initiatives. I saw it now, how carefully he'd positioned himself as invaluable while potentially undermining me. God, I've been blind. You trusted family. That's human, not naive. Dominic's voice held no judgment. The question now is how to prove it and stop him without destroying Windsor Hotels in the process. If it is him, the investigation will confirm it. But Nora, you need to prepare for that possibility. Men who hire kidnapping teams don't accept defeat gracefully. I finished the hot chocolate, letting its warmth combat the ice in my veins. Everything I'd built my life around, family legacy, corporate responsibility, the belief that blood meant loyalty, was crumbling. What would you do? I asked. In my position? He was quiet long enough that I looked up to find him watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I'd stop thinking like a CEO and start thinking like a survivor, he said finally. Your uncle, if it's him, isn't playing by boardroom rules anymore. Neither can you. I don't know how to think like that. You'll learn. He stood, the movement fluid despite his size. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start teaching your enemies why targeting you was their worst mistake. Dominic? I called as he reached the door. He turned back. What you did tonight, pretending I was your wife. That was quick thinking. Something shifted in his expression. I've found the best lies contain truth. You wear my name well, Nora. He left before I could process that, closing the door with a soft click that echoed in the sudden silence. I sat there, empty mug cooling in my hands, replaying the evening's impossibilities. This morning, I'd been Nora Windsor, untouchable heiress. Tonight I was hiding in a mob boss's guest room, wearing his clothes, protected by his name. The terrifying part wasn't the danger I'd escaped. It was how safe I felt here, in his space, under his protection. Some primitive part of my brain had already accepted what my logical mind resisted, that Dominic Torino was now standing between me and those who wished me harm. I finally crawled into the enormous bed, city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. Somewhere in this penthouse, a 5-year-old girl slept peacefully, unaware that her father had saved a stranger's life tonight. Somewhere in the city, men were regrouping, planning their next move against me. And somewhere in the space between sleep and waking, I could still taste whiskey and mint, could still feel strong arms pulling me against safety disguised as danger. Tomorrow would bring new battles. But tonight, I was safe in the tower of a man whose protection came with a price I wasn't sure I could afford, and wasn't sure I wanted to refuse. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to curtain, and the sound of a child's laughter echoing through the penthouse. For a moment, disorientation held me suspended between worlds. Was I in my own bedroom overlooking Central Park, or... Reality crashed back. Dominic's guest room, the attack, the kiss that had saved me. My phone showed 7:23 a.m., and dozens of new notifications I didn't have the courage to face yet. Instead, I followed the sound of that infectious giggle, padding barefoot through the penthouse in my borrowed clothes. I found them in the kitchen, Dominic at the stove, spatula in hand, while a tiny dynamo with dark pigtails sat at the breakfast bar, swinging her legs and chattering nonstop. She wore unicorn pajamas and had what appeared to be maple syrup already decorating her chin. And then Mrs. Peterson said my painting was abstract expressionism, which means I'm like Jackson Pollock, except I meant to make it look like that, and he just threw paint everywhere, which seems messy, but... Oh! She'd spotted me, huge brown eyes widening. Daddy, there's a lady! Dominic turned, and I felt that unwelcome flutter again at seeing him domestic, barefoot, gray t-shirt, making what smelled like cinnamon French toast. This was the same man who'd terrified professional criminals 12 hours ago. Lily, this is Ms. Windsor. She's staying with us for a bit. Nora, my daughter, who apparently doesn't believe in breathing between sentences. "Hi," Lily waved enthusiastically, sending a drop of syrup flying. "Are you Daddy's friend? Do you like unicorns? Your pajamas are really big. Are they Daddy's? I wear Daddy's shirts sometimes when mine are all dirty and—" "Lily." Dominic's tone was gentle but effective. "Let her wake up first, Piccola." "It's okay," I said, charmed despite everything. "Hi, Lily. You can call me Nora. And I do like unicorns, though not as much as dragons." Her gasp was theatrical. "Dragons are cool, too. They breathe fire and have treasure and—" "Daddy, can Nora have breakfast with us? Please?" "If she'd like," Dominic said, meeting my eyes with a question. "I should leave. Should return to my world, face the aftermath, pretend last night was an anomaly." Instead, I slid onto the stool beside Lily, who immediately scooted closer. "You smell nice," she announced. "Like Daddy's soap, but also like flowers. Are you wearing his clothes because yours got dirty? One time I spilled grape juice all over my favorite dress at Lucy's birthday and had to wear her brother's Spider-Man shirt home, and everyone laughed. But I didn't care, because Spider-Man is cool too." "Something like that?" I managed, catching Dominic's amused look as he plated French toast. "Coffee?" he offered. "Or are you one of those tea-in-the-morning people?" "Coffee, please. Strong as you can make it." A woman after Roberto's heart. He believes Americans make coffee like dirty water. As he moved around the kitchen with surprising efficiency, I found myself studying the domestic ballet. This wasn't a performance. This was routine. The way Lily automatically held out her plate, how he cut her toast into precise triangles, the practiced choreography of a single father and his daughter. "Do you have kids?" Lily asked, syrup threatening to drip from her suspended fork. "No, I don't." "Do you want some? Kids are fun." "Well, I'm fun. Tommy at school isn't fun. He eats paste, but most kids are fun. You could borrow me sometimes if you want to practice." "Lily," Dominic warned, sliding a mug of life-giving coffee in front of me. "What? I'm helpful. I helped Mrs. Chen with her grandson when he visited. I showed him all my best toys and only made him cry once, and that was because he's scared of Mr. Whiskers, not because of me." "Mr. Whiskers?" I asked, then immediately regretted encouraging her. "My dragon. He's not real," she stage whispered, "but he lives under my bed and protects me from bad dreams. Daddy got him for me after Mommy went to heaven." The casual mention of death from such a young soul made my chest tight. Dominic's expression flickered with something, old pain maybe, before smoothing out. "Finish your breakfast, baby. Mrs. Chen will be here soon to get you ready for school." "Can Nora come to school with me? Ms. Windsor has her own work to do." "What kind of work?" Those brown eyes fixed on me with genuine curiosity. "I run hotels," I said, keeping it simple. Her eyes widened. "Like where people sleep when they're on vacation. That's so cool. Do you have pools?" "I love pools. Daddy, can we stay in Nora's hotel? Can they have unicorn rooms?" "We don't currently have unicorn rooms," I admitted. "But that's an excellent idea. Maybe you could design one for me?" The squeal of delight probably woke half the building. Dominic shot me a look that was part gratitude, part warning about what I'd unleashed. But Lily's enthusiasm was infectious. Her chatter about color schemes and glitter walls a perfect distraction from the weight of last night's revelations. "Marco called," Dominic said quietly while Lily drew unicorn hotel designs on a napkin. "We have more information. When you're ready, we should talk." The real world intruding on this pocket of unexpected normalcy. But I nodded, downing the rest of my coffee like liquid courage. Mrs. Chen arrived precisely at 8, a composed, middle-aged woman, who took in my presence without visible reaction. Lily hugged her, then surprised me by hugging me too, her small arms fierce around my waist. "Bye, Nora. I'll draw more unicorns for your hotels." Then she was gone in a whirlwind of backpack gathering and shoe finding, leaving Dominic and me alone in the suddenly quiet kitchen. "She's wonderful," I said, meaning it. "She's my everything. No pretense, no masculine hedging, just simple truth. I'd burn the world to keep her safe." "I understand." He studied me. "I think you might. Shall we talk in my office?" The office was exactly what I'd expect from him. Functional elegance, leather and dark wood, a wall of books that looked read rather than decorative. He gestured me to a chair across from his desk, though he remained standing, tension in his shoulders. "The fourth man gave us names," he began without preamble. "The immediate team was hired through usual channels, but the money trail gets interesting higher up. Charles? Your uncle's been careful. Nothing directly links to him. But..." He pulled out a tablet, showed me financial records that made my stomach drop. 3 board members have received significant payments from the same shell company structure over the past year. Richard Hayworth, Diana Morrison, and Peter Lau. I knew them all. Had sat across conference tables from them, trusted their guidance. Richard had been particularly vocal about supporting my leadership publicly. "They're building a coalition," I said, seeing it clearly now. "Accumulating shares and proxy votes while keeping me distracted with small battles. 23% confirmed so far. If they get your 31%, game over." I stood, needing to move. They'd have majority control, could vote me out, restructure everything. Completely legal if I'd signed under duress. Except for the kidnapping part, which they'd claim to know nothing about. Plausible deniability while I disappear, or have an accident or simply lose credibility. The full scope of it was staggering. They've been planning this since Dad died, maybe before. Dominic moved closer, not touching but present. "What do you want to do?" "Fight back, but I don't know how. The board meets in 10 days. They'll probably try to force a vote then. I can't prove anything yet, and accusations without evidence will make me look paranoid, unstable. You need leverage. I need a miracle." "No," he corrected, his voice carrying that dangerous edge I'd heard last night. "You need someone who plays by different rules. Your uncle made a mistake bringing violence into this. That opened doors he won't like." "What kind of doors?" His smile was sharp. "The kind where I have conversations with people about their poor life choices. Where information gets shared that wasn't meant to be. Where pressure gets applied in ways corporate lawyers can't counter." "I'm talking about protecting you. The methods are my concern. I should have been appalled. Should have insisted on legal channels only. Instead, I felt relief. Because he was right. My uncle had changed the game's rules. I couldn't win playing defense with Robert's rules of order." "What do you need from me?" I asked. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. "Access to board communications, financial records, and you'll need to maintain appearances. Go to work. Act normal. Don't let them know you're aware of their plan." "While you what?" "Convince them that targeting you was the worst decision of their lives." The promise in his voice sent shivers through me. This was who he really was. Not the gentle father making French toast, but the man whose name alone could send armed criminals running. My phone rang. Andrea again. This time I answered. "Nora, thank God. Where are you? Are you safe? The police are here. The board is in emergency session." "I'm fine," I cut through her panic. "There was a security threat last night. I'm dealing with it. The press is going crazy. 3 men were found unconscious in the Guggenheim's parking garage. They're saying you were attacked. Andrea, breathe. I used my boardroom voice. I need you to schedule a press conference for this afternoon. I'll make a statement about enhanced security measures and business continuing as normal. But 2 o'clock, my office. Have security sweep everything twice. I caught Dominic's nod of approval. And Andrea, don't trust anyone. Not the board, not security, no one. Only speak to me directly. Nora, you're scaring me. Good. Stay scared and stay smart. I'll see you at 1:30. I hung up, the weight of what lay ahead settling on my shoulders. But when I turned, Dominic was there, solid and certain. You did well, he said. Show strength. Don't reveal what you know. Make them wonder what you're planning. While you actually plan something. I already am. He touched my shoulder, the contact brief but grounding. You should go home, change, prepare for the conference. Marco will drive you. He'll stay close but invisible. And tonight? You come back here, non-negotiable. Your penthouse is compromised until we can verify security. I wanted to argue about my independence, about not needing a keeper, but the bruises on my arm throbbed a reminder that pride could get me killed. All right, I agreed, but I need clothes. I can't keep borrowing yours. Roberto already arranged for your things to be collected and brought here, along with additional security measures at your office. At my surprise, he shrugged. I told you, I don't do things halfway. The press conference was a carefully orchestrated performance. I stood behind the podium in my armor, a crimson Valentino suit that projected power, my grandmother's pearl necklace for gravitas, makeup covering the bruises on my arm. 47 reporters packed into Windsor Hotel's conference room, cameras capturing every micro-expression as I delivered measured lies. Last night's incident was an isolated attempt by individuals who have been apprehended. Windsor Hotel's security protocols functioned as designed, and I was never in danger. The words tasted like ash. We are cooperating fully with authorities and have implemented additional measures to ensure the safety of all Windsor properties and personnel. Questions erupted. I fielded them with practiced calm, deflecting speculation while maintaining the fiction that this was a simple security matter. In the third row, I spotted Richard Hayworth, one of my compromised board members. His expression showed concern that might have been genuine if I hadn't known about the payments he'd received. Ms. Windsor, a reporter called out, sources suggest you left the gala with an unknown man. Can you comment on... I was escorted to safety by security personnel. I interrupted smoothly. Next question. But I could see the speculation beginning, the whispers about who had protected me. Dominic's name hadn't surfaced yet, but it would. He'd warned me that association with him carried consequences. I was beginning to understand what those might be. The conference ended with my assurances that Windsor Hotels remained stable, profitable, and under my complete control. A performance for the very people trying to destroy me, delivered with a smile that made my face ache. Andrea waited in my office, her usual efficiency cracked with worry. That was perfect. But Nora, what really happened? Those men are being handled by proper authorities, I said, moving to my desk where everything appeared normal, but felt like a stage set. Has Charles called? 3 times. He's very concerned, wants to meet privately to discuss enhanced security measures. Of course he did. Schedule it for tomorrow. Here, with full security present. He suggested his club. Here, I repeated firmly. And, Andrea, I need all board communications from the last 6 months. Financial disclosures, proxy assignments, voting records, everything. Her eyes widened. That's extensive. May I ask why? I met her gaze. This woman who'd been my right hand for 3 years. Could I trust her? Or was she another piece in my uncle's game? Due diligence, I said finally. After last night, I'm reviewing everything. She nodded slowly. I'll have it compiled by end of day. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of meetings, phone calls, and maintaining normalcy while my world tilted off its axis. Each interaction required calculation. Who knew what? Who might be compromised? Who was genuinely concerned versus fishing for information? At 5:30, Marco appeared in my doorway. I'd never heard him arrive, despite my assistant sitting just outside. "Time to go, Ms. Windsor," he said quietly. I gathered my things, noting how Andrea's eyes tracked Marco with professional interest. He looked like expensive security, nothing more, but something in how he moved, how he positioned himself, suggested greater capabilities. The ride back to Dominic's was silent. I spent it reading Andrea's preliminary reports on my phone, each page revealing new connections, suspicious timing, patterns I'd been too trusting to see. "Bastards," I muttered, finding a proxy assignment that gave Richard Hayworth voting rights for several institutional investors, all dated within weeks of my father's death. "Problem?" Marco asked from the front. "Just discovering how many friends are actually enemies." In my experience, that's most of them. Comforting, but probably accurate in my current situation. The penthouse felt different in evening light, warmer somehow, amber sun painting the brick walls golden. I heard Lily before I saw her, her voice carrying from somewhere deeper in the space. And then Emma said her unicorn could fly, but I said that's not special because all unicorns can fly. That's like saying your fish can swim. I followed the sound to a playroom that looked like FAO Schwartz had exploded. Toys, books, and art supplies covered every surface in organized chaos. Lily sat at a child-sized table, drawing with fierce concentration while Dominic lounged on the floor beside her, still in his business clothes but somehow looking completely at ease. "Nora." Lily spotted me and launched herself like a tiny missile. "You're back. Look, I drew your hotel." The paper she thrust at me showed a building that defied architectural physics, covered in rainbows and what appeared to be a dragon landing pad on the roof. "It's perfect," I said, meaning it. "We should definitely build this." "Really?" Her eyes went impossibly wide. "Well, we might have to adjust the rainbow slide slightly for safety codes." She giggled, pulling me toward the table. "Sit. You can help me color the dragon. Daddy's terrible at staying in the lines." "Slander," Dominic said mildly, unfolding from the floor with that fluid grace. His eyes met mine over his daughter's head, a silent question. "How did it go?" I gave a tiny shrug. Survived, nothing resolved, and let Lily boss me into selecting the proper shade of purple for dragon scales. The next hour passed in a bubble of normalcy I desperately needed. Lily chattered non-stop about school, her friends, her teacher's new hamster that was probably plotting escape because hamsters are sneaky like that. She was brilliant, precocious in a way that reminded me of myself at that age. Too smart, too aware, trying to understand an adult world through child's eyes. "Dinner's ready," Roberto announced from the doorway. "Is it spaghetti?" Lily asked hopefully. Roberto makes the best spaghetti. It's like eating clouds, except clouds made of cheese and tomatoes and... "Yes, Piccola, it's spaghetti," Roberto confirmed with fond exasperation. Dinner was surreal. Sitting at Dominic's dining table, helping Lily avoid wearing more sauce than she ate, discussing first-grade politics with the gravity they deserved. This was his life, the part hidden from the world that knew only his dangerous reputation. "Can Nora stay forever?" Lily asked as Roberto cleared plates. "She's nice and she smells good and she knows about dragons and hotels." "Lily, we have room. She can have the guest room permanently. Or, oh, she could share your room, Daddy. Then it would be like a sleepover every night." I felt heat rise in my cheeks as Dominic coughed. "Time for bath, baby." "But, no arguments. You've got sauce in your hair." She did, somehow. With dramatic sighs that belonged on Broadway, she trudged toward her bathroom, Roberto following to supervise. Alone with Dominic, the air changed, charged with awareness I'd been ignoring all day. "Thank you," I said. "For this. For letting me intrude on your evening with her." "You're not intruding." He leaned back, studying me. "She likes you. That's rare. Lily's particular about people. Kind eyes, right?" "Among other things." His gaze held weight. "Tell me about today. Really." So I did. The performance, the suspicions, the growing evidence that my uncle had orchestrated a complete takeover. He listened without interrupting, processing information with the focus I'd seen in boardrooms when billion-dollar deals hung in balance. "We need more than financial records," he said finally. "We need communications, plans, proof of conspiracy that can't be explained away." "How do we get that?" "Leave that to me. But there's something else. Your uncle requested a meeting tomorrow. It's a trap." "I know, but refusing looks suspicious." "Then we make it our trap." He stood, moved to the window where city lights sparkled like ground stars. "Come here." I joined him, hyper-aware of his proximity, the heat radiating from his body. "See that building?" He pointed to a gleaming tower 6 blocks away. "Your uncle's office. Right now, my people are having conversations with his security staff, learning schedules, patterns, weaknesses." "You're surveilling him?" "I'm protecting you. That requires understanding your enemies." He turned to face me fully. "This ends one of 2 ways, Nora. Either we destroy their plan completely, or they destroy you. There's no middle ground anymore." The blunt assessment should have terrified me. Instead, I felt clarity. "Then we destroy them first." "You're not who I expected," he said softly. "The princess in her tower, maybe. Some idealistic heiress playing CEO. But you're harder than that, stronger." "Disappointed?" "No." His hand lifted, hovering near my face without touching. "Concerned." "Why?" "Because strong women who don't know when to bend have a tendency to break. And I find myself increasingly invested in keeping you whole." The words hung between us, carrying more meaning than their surface suggested. I should step back, maintain professional distance. Instead, I swayed closer, drawn by gravity I didn't want to examine. "Daddy, I'm clean." Lily's voice shattered the moment. We stepped apart as she bounded in, damp hair and unicorn pajamas. "Story time? Of course, Piccola." But his eyes stayed on me. "Nora was just telling me about her hotels. Maybe she has a story about them?" 2 pairs of expectant eyes turned my way, ambushed by father-daughter coordination. "Well," I said, settling onto the couch as Lily snuggled between us. "There was once a hotel where a dragon decided to stay. I spun a tale of room service for mythical creatures and concierges, learning to speak dragon, watching Lily's eyes grow heavy. Dominic's arm stretched along the back of the couch, not quite touching me, but present, protective. As Lily finally dozed against my shoulder, tiny hand clutching my sleeve, I caught Dominic watching us with an expression that made my heart skip. "I should move her," he said quietly. "Not yet." I wasn't ready to break this spell, this glimpse of what normal might feel like in his world. So we sat there, his daughter sleeping between us, the city alive beyond the windows, danger circling but held at bay by the man who'd kissed me to save my life and might destroy me in entirely different ways. Tomorrow would bring confrontations, revelations, the battle for my father's legacy. But tonight, I was just Nora, telling stories to a little girl who smelled like strawberry shampoo and believed in unicorns, while her father looked at me like I might be worth burning the world for. The terrifying part was how much I wanted to let him. Later, after Lily was tucked into bed and Roberto had retired, Dominic poured 2 glasses of wine, and we returned to the living room. The domesticity of the evening had lowered my defenses, made me forget who he really was. "Your uncle will come at you sideways tomorrow," he said, shattering the illusion of normalcy. "He'll play concerned family, suggest you're overwhelmed, that you need help, maybe even propose a conservatorship for your own protection." I nearly choked on my wine. He wouldn't dare. "He hired men to kidnap you. There's nothing he wouldn't dare." He set down his glass, moved closer. "When you meet him, I need you to wear this." He produced a slim silver bracelet, elegant and understated. "It's beautiful, but it's also a recording device. Everything said will be captured, uploaded to secure servers." He took my hand, fastened the bracelet with gentle efficiency. Evidence in case he incriminates himself. And if he doesn't, then we escalate. His fingers lingered on my wrist. "I've been patient, played by certain rules because of Lily, because of the life I've tried to build for her. But they threatened you under my protection. That has consequences." "What kind of consequences?" His smile was sharp as winter. The kind that remind people why the Torino name carries weight in certain circles. I should have been appalled, should have insisted on legal channels, proper procedures. Instead, I thought of Lily asking if I could stay forever, of the trap closing around me, of my father's legacy being stolen by the man who'd helped raise me. "Do it," I heard myself say. "Whatever you need to do. End this." He studied me for a long moment, then lifted my hand and pressed his lips to my palm. The gesture was courtly, old-fashioned, and sent heat racing through my veins. "You should rest," he said. "Tomorrow's war begins." I stood on unsteady legs, hyper-aware of his eyes tracking my movement. At the hallway to the guest room, I paused. "Dominic? That kiss last night? Was any of it real?" His expression shifted, walls dropping for just a moment. "All of it. That's what made it convincing." I fled before I could process that admission, before I could make choices I wasn't ready for. But sleep brought no peace. Only dreams of dark eyes and strong hands, of a little girl's laughter and a future I couldn't quite see but desperately wanted to reach. Tomorrow would bring battles and betrayals, but tonight I was safe in the tower of a man who kissed like possession and protected like promise. Tonight, I was home in a place I'd never expected to find it, and that terrified me more than any physical threat ever could. Because I was falling for Dominic Torino, single father, mob boss, my unlikely savior. And when this was over, when my uncle was defeated and my company saved, I'd have to choose between the life I'd always known and the one glimpsing possibility in a penthouse where dragons could stay in hotels and dangerous men read bedtime stories. The tragedy was, I already knew which I'd choose. I just had to survive long enough to claim it.